Hello, and welcome to It's Fate. I'm Morgan Barker,
I'm Katie Christiansen.
and we have some guests with us today.
Hey, I'm Madeline.
I'm Paige.
These are my two sisters, and they're here to join us as we enter the summer court today. So today we'll be covering chapters 28 through 34. And before we get started, we want to introduce a new segment called the personal question of the episode. And when you make it an acronym, it turns out to be Picody.
Oh, I read it as
Pequot.
Pequot.
I kind of like Pequot.
I like Pequot more.
That's cute. You're welcome.
Pequot it is. So for our first ever Pequot, what was your favorite read of 2023, everybody? We'll just go down the line.
Oh, I didn't prepare for this.
Start with Paige.
I'll go.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, even though I have no answer because I'm trying to figure out what I friggin' read this year. Obviously, ACOTAR's up there. I started a friggin' podcast with my BFF over it, so obviously
kind
it's
of a
up
big
there.
deal.
Yeah. Obviously, Throne of Glass, which I just finished the whole series, and I told Morgan I need a little like post-mortem break, and I'm probably gonna read something very like lighthearted and no brain being used.
A nice rom-com.
Yeah. Let me look at my like Goodreads.
I have 40 pages left in Kingdom of Ash, and I can already tell you I will finish it before the end of 2023. So by the time this episode is out, it will be done. And it's my favorite book already that I've read this year.
Do you like it more than ACOTAR?
I do. I really do.
I feel like people have very strong preferences for the books.
I have an answer, but it could be a lie. I don't remember when I read this book. I think it was in 2023, but nobody knows. So I would say my favorite book was Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. That was maybe my favorite read of the year. It's about, I don't know. It's really good. It was so good. She doesn't remember what happened in it. It's like a take. It's like his hot take on this like Greek kind of mythological like story about I can't remember the characters' names, and I'm feeling kind of stupid. But I did read it. It might have been more than a year ago now that I'm saying it because it's not saying super well in my memory, but it was really, really, really beautiful. So yeah,
That's fine.
I
We
also-
aren't judging.
I'm glad my mom died. Jeanette McCurdy, so good.
That's good.
It's
I
really
heard
good. I
that's
highly
good.
recommend.
Yeah, I read that as well this year. It was very good.
So I just started getting back into reading. My friends and I, two of your guys' listeners, Vanessa and Jill.
Shout out.
Yes, we started a book club, and ACOTAR. We started ACOTAR based off of your recommendation, and so I think out of the 12 books that we read, that is definitely my favorite.
Ooh, you read 12 books with them, one a month? Is that kind of what you guys did? Or?
We tried to. So actually, we each had our own Goodreads goals, and sometimes the books would flow over into the other month. But for the most part, we tried to do one a month. Yeah,
That's so cute. I love it. Great. What a great first. What did we say we were going to call it?
Pequot.
The Pequot. Like a
Like a-
kumquat.
Kumquat.
Yeah, Pequot. Okay.
What were you guys gonna call it? Picody?
Picody.
Okay, yeah, Pequot's cuter.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so with that, we will dive into the recap.
So, chapter 28, we left off with Azriel taking the Ator to be questioned and tortured. And Rhys lets Feyre into his mind to see his interaction with Ator in the Hone city with...
I always called it Hune.
Okay, I say Hune too, but is that right?
Who is calling it Hone?
Katie just called it out.
No, I meant like, did you read that? Like, did someone tell you you're wrong?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it's Hune.
I believe you're correct.
Well, because it's a real word and it means to be like made, right?
Yeah, it's
No
a real
comment.
word. It's not a fantasy word. It's
Yeah.
just my brain.
It's fine. Hone Hune.
It's the
Sorry.
same thing.
Take
No,
note.
you're good. In this, so Rhys lets Feyre into his mind.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. In the memory, we find out a few things. So we know that the king of Hybern has a massive army and that the Spring Court is on tight lockdown, and even Azriel's contacts have been unreachable. And I think we talked about this in the last episode where we're like, what does this mean? And I was
Mhm.
wondering if it was like it just means like his shadows like can't enter.
Yeah, because one of our theories from last episode was like, who are his spies and who are his shadows? And we kind of both agreed that we think his shadows are his spies. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think this kind of reminds me of one of the characters from this book that I read called Library at Mount Char, where one of her powers was that like she had these like, this is going to sound kind of dark, but she had these like ghost babies that could like travel time and would like do her spying for her. It was really dark. It's kind of a good book. It's kind of strange, but it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like part of him in some form that he like sends out into the world.
Yeah, that's kind of what we thought too. Ghost babies.
Sorry.
That's fun. Azriel's ghost babies.
Yeah.
Cannot get into the Spring Court.
Yeah, why not?
No. The Ator wasn't tracking Feyre, so we find out that the Ator wasn't just like following her.
Mm-hmm.
The king just knew where she was and told him where to go, and he just wants her for some vague reason. We don't really find out why.
How do we think the king knew where she was if they weren't tracking her, that he was just able to like pinpoint her? Is that something we find out later? I can't remember.
There is something that happens at the end of the book where I wonder how the king knows something. So again, I don't know if there's an answer to it. I'm just kind of curious how he knows all these things.
Maybe he has his own ghost babies that he sends out to do his spying for him.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe the cauldron is some sort of like
calls to like.
Yeah, or like some, what are they called?
Oracle?
Balls? Crystal ball.
Yeah.
Like a crystal ball. Yeah.
Okay, Azriel is the deadliest and darkest of them all.
Okay, this is kind of embarrassing. But the first time I read this book, first of all, I think I said this last time, I don't really understand his gift. Like, shadow singer, what does that really mean?
He sings to them.
He sings his ghost babies lullabies. But when I read it the first time, you know, sometimes you read a word one way and it's just like stuck in your brain that way. I read shadow slinger, and that is then how I read it the rest of the book. And that was easier for my mind to like understand what that gift was. Like, he slung the shadows.
Can I say something? I didn't realize it was singers until I read the notes that you sent me. I'd also thought it was slingers this whole time.
Wow, I'm not alone.
I don't know why. When I read them too, I was like, I thought it was Shadow Slayer. But then he would be slaying his own babies, so that doesn't really make sense. You know?
Not the ghost babies, unless the shadows are those that Azriel has killed.
Yeah.
Could be. Then that would be like,
oh, that's kind of weird.
ghost. Oh, then he'd be like haunted, literally by his past.
Yeah, but they help him.
So maybe
they help the person that
they
tortured
like,
him?
but like, yeah, do they like him, or is it like an enslavement thing?
Ooh.
I just mean like, do they have a choice? You know what I mean?
Right. Is it like an eternal punishment, kind of like Jurian being in the ring?
I feel like it's just him though, because remember they said he had these powers when he was young. Presumably he wasn't like killing people as an adolescent. I mean, I don't know. This is a harsh world, so it could be. But.
Is it like a sixth sense thing? Sixth sense thing?
Yeah,
where
that's
he's a child and he sees dead people.
And then he like gets them to do
his dirty work.
his spying.
Yeah, maybe they're not people he's killed, but just like dead people. I don't know. Interesting. But I'm glad I'm not we're really going off on a tangent, but I'm really glad I'm not the only one who read that word differently.
It kind of reminded me of like a boomerang. That's like kind of how I imagined it, of like he like, you know, threw it out there and it came back to him.
That's exactly how I pictured it too.
Okay.
No, he sings to them.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I started the way I found out is I was seeing TikToks where it was like, this is what I imagine Azriel's song to be when he sings to his shadows, and I'm like, what the heck? He sings to his shadows? So there you go.
Feyre decides to write Tamlin a letter in hopes that it'll ease the relations with him and the Spring Court.
And the letter is like, I'm fine. Don't come for me. I'm never coming back. And I read that and I'm like, it sounds like a hostage situation. Like, you were forced to write this.
It wasn't a good letter.
It sounded like very condescending to me. Like if I had received that letter, it would have like fueled my rage even further.
I agree. I feel like my opinion is that she should have maybe put a little more thought into it and made it seem like more from her. I don't know. It came off as weird.
Yeah, I agree. It was too short.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought someone forced her to write it.
Yeah.
So we do get some more flirty banter, and Feyre chooses a night on the town over sleeping and being a sad little girl.
Yay.
Why do you think this what changed her? What changed her mind about wanting to go out?
I think because she's been starting to train, right? And she wrote that letter to Tamlin. I think she's really accepting that everything that happened in the spring court and under the mountain is her past, and she's slowly becoming ready to move forward.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if hearing about the spring court pushed her to just want to be outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like having to think about Tamlin, having to think about like who she was. She just kind of wanted to like get this out of her brain and have some fun finally.
Yeah. Go get down at Rita's.
Okay. Amren goes to see Feyre, and then she spills some tea. So Nuella and Cerridwen are actually wraiths. They're only half high fae, and they're essentially just mist and smoke and can walk through walls. And I don't even understand how someone can have sex with a wraith.
Okay,
how
Amren
are they
literally says that. She's like, I don't even want to think about how those two were conceived. And I'm like, me neither.
How I don't understand.
What was the consent? How you know what I mean with like mist?
I don't know.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, like
at what point does it become, you're walking through mist? At what point is it like a sexual thing?
Do you not get turned on walking through mist?
But I think
they still like
it was like a ghost.
Yeah.
Like, how do we think ghost babies came about? They are the ghost babies, the OG ghost babies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very strange.
Wild.
We also learned that there are taxes in the Night Court cities, but there's no tithe like there is in the Spring Court. And then Amren also tells Feyre that the amulet that she gave her to protect her in the prison actually has no power, and she just made it up to give Feyre some confidence. Would you be mad if someone did this to you?
I think if you knew that their intent was good and not just to like dismiss your fear or whatever, I would be appreciative of it. Like, you helped calm me. It might even bring me closer to someone.
I kind of tend to agree. I think that like it's not as if she was like setting her up to fail. The intention was to like provide her with comfort. You know what I mean? It wasn't to say like, oh, I don't know. I feel like Feyre would have to be really stupid to like go down there and be like, well, I've got this amulet on, so no, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing if I encounter dark. You know what I mean? Like, It felt like it really was just like to boost her confidence. Like, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Kind of reminds me of like in one of the Harry Potter movies where like Harry pretends to give Ron the
potion,
the luck thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so what? Like, it gave him the confidence to do what he needed to do. And like, it's a powerful message to know that you like don't have to have something, that it's like coming from within her, and it's not this amulet that
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. This also reminded me of a little corrections corner from last week. I had mentioned, which I know that Madeline and Paige, neither of you have read all of the books in the SJM multiverse, but I had mentioned a little connecting the cosmos about amulets and how there's amulets in Throne of Glass and in this one that have some sort of power, whether it be true or made up. And I realized that there actually is an amulet in Crescent City as well that Bryce has to wear, or her boss gives her to wear to like protect her at all times. So lots of amulets. Okay, chapter 29. The gang goes out for a great meal, and Feyre notices how the people in the city treat Rhys and his companions, which is so different from Tamlin. They treat them with like awe and respect, but never any fear, which is cool.
Do we know how long Rhys has been High Lord?
I don't know. I wonder if we learn later at what age he was when his dad was killed.
How does age even work for them, though?
I don't know. We've been talking about that a lot in this episode, but we did figure out that Azrael's 550 and Rhys is 520 something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
but we don't really know what that means on the scale of their lifetime.
Right, because he becomes High Lord then after his dad gets killed, right? And his mom?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But when that happens, we don't know.
I can't remember. So, we find out Amryn drinks blood, so that's fun. Farrah says this meal makes her feel awake and is filling the hole in her heart, which I think is cool because she's very much accrediting this to the food itself. But I like to think that it's the companionship and the environment, and people really underestimate the power of like quality time with people that really fill you up. So I think she's feeling a little bit of that as well. We get hints of an interesting dynamic between Mor, Azriel, and Cassian when they leave to go dancing, but we don't really understand what's happening there yet.
I kind of hate how obsessive Azriel seems with Mor at this point, but I also feel bad for him because I feel like he feels like he has a chance with her, but
Paige doesn't. Paige hasn't.
He may not have a chance with her. He may.
I unfortunately am a spoiler girly, so I think I know who he ends up with.
We don't know yet.
We don't know,
but it's insinuated.
There's two girls, and there's some debate within the fandom. So I'm very excited for you to find out.
Yeah,
and which one you're rooting for?
Which one I'm rooting for? Yeah,
yes.
Which couple I ship.
But this whole dynamic, rereading it and knowing, all of it. It kind of makes me cringe. I'm just like, I don't really love it.
I just don't care about them.
Oh.
Well, I meant like on that level. Like I just feel like I'm like, how old are you guys? You know
right. It does.
Like how long has this been going? Like wouldn't you have been like bored? Wouldn't you have like said something? It just feels like unnecessary,
Yeah.
It's like dragged on to the nth degree. Like you're 500 years old.
Right. It's like,
get it together.
Tell her how you feel or go away. You know what I mean?
Right. Have a conversation. Farrah and Rhys walk home together, and we learn a little more about Rhys. He never married and knows that if he does, the person will always have a target on their back, which is part of the reason why he hasn't yet.
Do you feel like he told Farrah this to almost warn her? Like, hey, you don't want to be with me. You're gonna be.
Yeah, I think he's in the business of testing her.
Oh, 100%.
And I think this is probably one of those tests. While it's not maybe life-threatening as some of the other ones have been, yeah, I think he's kind of well, this is what you're gonna get,
Yeah, I agree. The Night Court used to be ruled from the Hewn or Hone city.
Hey,
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to pop
it's
off
okay.
And be, really. I just thought maybe you read it somewhere and you were feeling like someone had corrected you, and I'm like, no, how dare they?
It's okay. We are in the business here of trying different pronunciations and figuring out what works and
throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, the Night Court used to be ruled from the Hewn City and was very evil until an ancient High Lord wanted to make a change. He decided to keep Valaris a secret so they weren't vulnerable during this change. The Court of Nightmares exists because there is still evil within the court, and it allows the best parts of the Night Court to be kept secret. I feel like I have mixed feelings about all of this, but what do you guys think? Other courts have wonderful cities and leaders too that aren't kept secret. Why is this one so different?
I think it's very strange, especially when we have someone like Mor who clearly didn't agree with her upbringing or what she was taught. And I just think, are there other children there who are also suffering the wrath of their evil parents? Why are we letting these innocent people be brought up in a evil place?
That's kind of how I feel too. If Rhys is so powerful, why can't he just eradicate them?
Right. If anyone's gonna make the change, it would be him.
The most powerful High Lord in Prithian's history,
according to him.
Clearly, Madeline has feelings. What do you think, Paige?
What was the question again? Oh, no, I just have a statement to make. It's I feel like we see Rhys as kind of this perfect guy or whatever you want to call him in this book, but then it's there are actually some flaws or some holes where it's if he's the most powerful lord, why doesn't he do something? Why is he I don't know.
What feels kind of I don't want to say cowardly, but it's just he's just content to only help and serve the people in his community, the people that he's deemed to be worthy
Mm-hmm.
of that, and like he's just kind of like abandoned the people in the hewn city, and it's kind of like, I don't know, why do you get to decide, or also like what do you think it's just gonna like like who else would change it, like you are the person that's in charge. And he's also like pandering to them too, because when he goes to visit them he's like playing this role, and it's kind of like, for what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And I do think it just shows us, like in Throne of Glass, they made a comment where it's like, you're only human, or whatever that would be for a fae. Because like obviously faes aren't human, but that concept of like, you're still just a person, like you're just a being. You're gonna make mistakes. And so it does also show that he's not perfect too, like you said, Paige. Farrah hears the music she heard in her cell under the mountain and realizes that Rhys sent it. And she says that when she heard that music in the cell, she saw the night court. And Rhys says that he didn't send her those images. He only sent her the music. So I thought that was just like a cute little moment of maybe some fate, perhaps. Farrah and Rhys send flirty magic notes to each other, and we are reminded of the licking under the mountain.
No. Wait. Did I block this out? What licking?
Farrah's crying in her cell, and Rhys licks away her tears. And Farrah's like, well, I understand it now. Like, he did it to distract me and to keep me angry. And I'm like, I'm still not a fan.
Why does Rhys purr all the time and then lick his girly? Like,
He's a cat.
right? I'm like, is he actually a cat? What is going on?
Okay,
Isn't he a bird?
He's like a bat.
Okay, but bats don't purr.
So the purr, I think, is like supposed to be a term. It's in a lot of books that's supposed to be like a sensual way of saying something.
You're supposed to feel sexy about it.
Yeah, like,
No.
I like your sweater.
It's not sexy at all. Not sexy.
Anyway.
I kind of wish we got more perspective from Rhys at this point, like the beginning of the relationship. I think that'd be really interesting to get his take on all the flirting and like the like will they, won't they at this point.
There's what's it called? Fan fiction. There's
Yeah.
fan fiction of this book from Rhys's point of view. Some that are really popular.
Ooh, where do you find fan fiction?
Probably Reddit. I don't know. Google.
Archive of Our Own
Oh yeah, that's right.
is a big one.
Okay, is that a website?
Yeah. Okay, so in chapter 30, we get Cassian starting to teach Farrah some combat basics while Rhys and Azriel spar. For the first time since before Under the Mountain, Farrah can vividly see the image she wants to paint of Rhys and Azriel. Farrah is a big fan of the wings.
She loves the wings.
How do we feel about the wings?
I
Paige
like-
already is, her face is saying no.
No, it's the way they describe it, and oh gosh, I just can't. I had to flip over a couple pages. It makes me uncomfortable.
Are we talking about the wings in like the sexual sense?
I think at
Just
this
how you
point
feel
she
about
just
them.
likes the wings. Like she just thinks, I mean, maybe she thinks they're hot. I don't know.
I think wings are cool. Like if I could fly, I would want to, you know?
Same.
Yeah, I mean, the wings are cool and like pretty powerful, but the way that they describe them, it's like a metaphor for a guy's, you know.
No, tell us. I don't know.
I don't know. Me neither. I like the wings. I just will not and will never get behind the talons, the toe talons.
Yeah, no.
No, absolutely not.
Something, if I can interject here, something that I have found, like, not to be annoying in the book, but I think it was like overdone, was how much, like, in the midst of like conflict or whatever, Farrah's like, oh, I want to paint this.
We
And I'm
talked
like-
about that
And
before.
I'm like, can you not?
She's
Like,
a
it's
little
just
bit
like,
of a pick-me girl.
like maybe once a book, okay, but it felt like once a chapter at one point, and it's just like, okay, how much? What? Where do you get the time to do all this painting?
They're just trying to show us that this is such like a deep passion for her and like a part of her being. I don't know. But yeah, she's
She's
obsessed.
like in the middle of like a battle, and she's like, oh, if only I could paint this. It's like, shouldn't you be thinking about something else?
People are dying.
Yeah, come on.
Anyway.
So they continue training, and Farrah goes over everything again in her head about what happened to her under the mountain, and she reminds herself that what she once felt was really real, and the fact that Tamlin didn't fight for her under the mountain was also very real.
Mm-hmm. She brings up that when Amaranth was killing her, he just begged and didn't fight. And I honestly forgot about this. I think it's interesting that for someone who has such a short and hot temper and seems to have this big power over really minor things, he didn't have that temper explode when the love of his life was being murdered. So
Yeah, I feel like his character is not very like consistent. Like from a writing perspective, I don't really understand. It feels like should I call her SJM?
sure.
She just is kind of like deciding as she goes, like how she wants him to respond to things. It doesn't really feel like there's, like I feel like the other characters, there's like something, there's like characteristics and traits that they have throughout the books. Whereas for him, it kind of goes up and down, and I'm like, wait, it doesn't feel like he has a character. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like he's either like the good guy or the bad guy.
I think that's kind of the point for him. I think he's supposed to be like he doesn't know himself. Like he doesn't know himself, and he's trying to be someone that maybe he doesn't actually want to be. So yeah, I think that's a good point, but I think that was the purpose of his character.
So Feyre gets all wrapped up in her feelings and actually burns through the sparring pads and the wraps on her hands with her firepower. She says she kind of admits to herself that like she killed them, meaning the fairies that she had killed under the mountain, and Cassian simply responds with, "I know," and then says it should have been she says that it should have been her. She should have been the one that died. And suddenly Rhys is there, and his wings have them cocooned from the world.
So cute.
Rhys tells her he understands that feeling from his mother when his mother and his sister died, and that she can either let it kill her or learn to live with it.
Yeah, I love that both Cassian and Rhys don't just tell her like it's okay or move on, like anything that kind of insinuates move on in a non-sympathetic way. They don't try to make it seem like she didn't do something wrong or get her to change how she feels. They're just kind of like, this is it, and here's what you can do with it. You can live with it because it is a part of you, or you can let it destroy you. I appreciated that.
Rhys apologizes for not being able to save her from under the mountain and says he either has nightmares of being Amarantha's whore again or of seeing Feyre die.
Tamlin never apologized for not being there for her under the mountain. Like he just like never addressed it. This still bugs me. I hate him.
Yeah. He definitely could have at least tried
I
come
agree.
up with a plan. I don't know. Rhys tells Feyre to summon darkness, but he ends up summoning a peaceful darkness, and Feyre finally feels like at peace, which I love that we're finally starting to see like Feyre heal, especially in the terms of like darkness, right? And like feeling like it's like there can be peace in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked this, and I feel like I didn't fully understand what was happening the first time I read it, but she says that she's literally holding a star. It's like Rhys doesn't just summon darkness, like he summons all that night is, which I thought was really cool and interesting.
Yeah, it is really cool. I don't think I remember that he could summon like stars and stuff either.
Cool. Okay, chapter 31. 4 days later, and Feyre is sparring with Cassian and recounting events from the night they went out. Feyre spent most of the night betting with Azriel who would hit on Rhys, and Feyre starts wondering if Rhys has been with anyone since Under the Mountain, or if he's even ready to be with anybody.
Feyre's feelings are so obvious.
She's trying to play it off.
Going back and rereading it, I'm like, oh my gosh. She like just hasn't admitted to herself of how much she's interested in Rhys. But she has all these like types of thoughts about him. Like, come on, girl. It's in your face.
But then she also mentions him as her friend, which they emphasize that a couple times. Like, that's my friend. And I'm like, oh, girl, he's more than your friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. She brings up like that question to herself if he would even want someone in bed after Amarantha. And sometimes when I'm reading, I feel like I forget about what he actually went through. And I think it is kind of brushed over because it's just not the main storyline. But, they talk about Feyre's trauma so much, but sometimes we forget like Rhys was literally like tortured in a really not great way. And I forget like the effects that could happen from that trauma. Okay, Rhys tells them that him, Feyre, and Amren are going to the summer court, and I love that Cassian isn't going because he's been banned from the summer court for life for just wrecking one building. He said it was one building. Just seems fitting.
And it's ironic that they also wreck one building.
I know.
They do just as much damage.
Yeah, exactly. Rhys and Feyre do more flirting, and Feyre tells herself that she can be happy and is allowed to flirt, so just more healing on her end. And she tells Rhys that she hasn't been able that he hasn't been able to leave her alone since Kalmbach. Like, oh, you know, in that flirty way, like, you've been following me since Kalmbach, and there's a little flicker in his eye.
What do you think he's thinking about when she says that?
I think he's thinking about probably Kalmbach and just everything they've been through and how he knows that they're mates. I mean, spoiler alert, but...
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because we find out later that was, like, a really important, like, experience for him to see her, and, like, that, like, gave him hope, right? Yeah. So I imagine that, like, while she's saying this casually and, like, not understanding the significance, like, he's very much aware of the significance.
I agree.
Okay, so the next day, Rhys winnows Feyre and Amber to the summer court, and he's grumpy from losing a card game with Cassian and Azriel. There is quite a bit of detail about their clothing choices. Do you like when authors tell you about, like, exactly what their person is wearing, or are you like, I don't care?
I like it.
I love it. I eat it up.
I like it, yeah, because then, like, what we're wearing today is, you know, representative of it.
Yeah, we're wearing blue today for the summer court, even though
it's
Katie's
winter.
the only one that looks like she would actually be at the summer court.
It's cold.
It's cold here, kind of. Anyway, I love the clothing. I feel like it helps me picture the characters more, and I just love clothes. So
yeah, I think I just am not the type of person that can easily construct like visual pictures in my head. And so, like, I feel like if I didn't get those little snippets, it would be like stick figures. But also, I'm also the type of person that can skim when I get overwhelmed with all the details, and I don't really care about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I like it, great, but I don't feel obligated to pay all this attention to it.
I feel that. Yeah, I feel that.
So we get some more information about the summer court, specifically Adriata, their capital. Is that how you guys said it?
Yeah, I said Adriata.
Okay.
Or Adriata.
I know. I kind of went back and forth between Adriata and Adriata.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you spell it?
It's probably Adriata because of...
I might have said Adriata, but...
Those vowels.
I know, it's hard.
Tricky.
It sounded very similar to me to the Adriatic Sea, which is off the coast of Italy, and I wonder if that's where she just got her inspiration from.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we learned that it's a mountain island off of a half-moon bay, and that all the buildings there are made from white stone, and there's lots of bridges connecting the island to the mainland with lots of ships. And we see again that there's a bustling city compared to the Spring Court's villages. And again, it makes me wonder if the Spring Court has ever had busy cities, or if it's always just been a little farm.
Yeah, I think it's just
village.
Rural. So what is everyone's first impression of the summer court?
I love it. I want to go there.
My first thought was, get me out of here. It's too hot. Farrah's like, the heat. And I'm like, I would die.
I feel like that might be the court I would want to be in.
I don't really know if I thought about it. What was the question?
What were your first impressions of the summer court?
Oh, it sounded like the beach. I don't really care about the beach, so.
Yeah, it sounded like a nice vacation to me, but personally, I wouldn't want to live there.
Right. Like maybe an overnight trip, but nothing more.
I mean, I could give it like a week or two.
Okay, so the introductions were made to the High Lord Tarquin. And Feyre feels like she knows him through her power connection with him, and knows that she can find the book because she can feel this connection with Tarquin as well.
So a little name corner. Tarquin means ruler. It is Latin and originated during Roman times. So no Irish roots here, like a lot of the other names.
Yeah.
Well, and that's interesting if it's based off of Italy, right?
Oh, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Although I was always pronouncing his name as Tarquin.
Tarquin.
But I'm never right. Because whenever we talk about it, you're always like wrong.
Yeah, all the time. And she's like, no, I'm not.
We should look it up.
This is what it is.
The reason I feel like it's Tarquin is because if we took away the tar part, wouldn't you pronounce his name Quinn? Quin?
Sure. I'm not saying my opinions are based off logic and reasoning. Okay.
It reminded me of like Tarquin turquoise. I don't know.
Oh, like the
play on
sea.
words.
Yeah, I like that.
So we know that Tarquin knows Feyre from under the mountain. Why don't you think he like even smiles at her? She literally saved his life.
I think I don't know.
It's so annoying. I don't like these little court games.
They're so serious.
It's very political.
Yeah. Which I'm like, why can't everyone just get along? Tarquin's eyes shift to Farrah's chest, and Rhys immediately makes a comment and goes, her breasts are delicious, aren't they? And I just thought, well, obviously Paige got uncomfortable based off of her hand or her face. But like, hey, he's calling it out. Like, you're looking there? Let's talk about it. And it probably made Tarquin feel more uncomfortable, which he should be. That's my opinion.
And part of me thinks, like, was he doing to be sexual, or was he like, oh my goodness, like, your heart is like new and like you were alive and you were dead? That's how I saw it. And then Reese was like, her breasts are delicious. I'm like, oh, okay.
I thought she was always there to be like flirty, and so I figured he was just kind of giving her that like flirty context of like, oh yeah, this is how she exists within my court. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Even though I also was like, ugh.
Yeah.
It made me laugh.
I like that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we meet Princess Cressida.
I always say Cressida.
Oh, I say Cressida too. See,
Okay.
I don't know why when I say it out loud in my brain don't match. Okay. And Prince Varian, who cannot keep his eyes off Amren.
Foreshadow.
Oh,
No.
don't worry about it.
It's nothing big.
It's really not the biggest thing.
I also just don't, like Madeline said about those three. I guess she's the fourth one. It's like I don't really care if I know spoilers. about
Right.
them,
It's like
you know what
super
I mean?
minor. So.
Well, they hook up, so.
Oh.
So as they walk, Farrah's thoughts trail to Tamlin again as she realizes that Kalmbach will be soon and that she can't really let herself think about it.
So, what do you think would have happened if Farrah was still at the spring court during Kalmbach?
Not
like
good
if
things.
if Tamlin has to perform this ritual, and if it's a maiden who's chosen, but if he's married,
It would have been her, presumably.
It would have been her.
Because I think, like, because even when, from the last book, he was like,
Mhm.
oh, I looked for you. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that whole, like, animal, like, that, like, it's maybe not him, what am I saying? It's maybe not, like, him fully, like, cognizant and
Mhm.
being like, oh, I want to be with this person. But there's, like, that, I think you guys talked about it before, like, they had, like, a lot of, like, sexual chemistry. And, like, that was, like, animalistic. So I feel like he still would have been drawn to her.
that makes sense. That's probably true.
Which, not good.
No.
No.
A little wild.
They all go into a sitting room, and Farrah and Tarquin have a little chat by the window. Farrah wonders if Tarquin can feel the pull of his own power in her, and I wonder if he thinks it's like a mating bond.
That's a good point. He probably does, especially with how he flirts with her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never thought of it like that.
That's kind of awkward for him.
I know. I feel bad for him during this
He's
experience.
like being used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually do like Tarquin.
I do too.
So yeah.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Madeline.
Reese confirms to them that Hybern is coming for war, and Princess Cressida hints that Tamlin could go to war since Farrah is his stolen bride. I'm so confused. Farrah was never actually married to him. How is that a law? A girlfriend can't break up with their High Lord? Come on.
No, it's
What is that?
ridiculous.
Why is she like stolen bride?
She's literally property. That's the problem, according to these weird ancient laws.
Dumb. Reese tells them that if anyone turns Farrah over to Tamlin, he will kill them. So
Dang. Chapter 33. Farrah is in her room, and Reese comes in and flirts with Farrah by trying to see if she's into Tarquin. And he says that he likes Tarquin and his court, except for Varian, but he'd probably get along great with the boys, and Amren would easily have him wrapped around her finger, which is another great foreshadow. Farrah gets very into it and feels her power call to her and summons water. Farrah says that she would go back to Tamlin if he tried to go to war over her. And Reese says that Tamlin just loved her too much.
again, I wish we got Tamlin's point of view because we really never see how deeply.
I like that you wrote tampon.
Oh, thank you. How deeply he actually loves Farrah, because we see the like possessive and like obsessive side, right? His actions seem that way, but I do think he loves her in whatever way that is.
Or maybe he thinks he does.
It's a toxic love.
Yeah, absolutely. They go on a barge, basically like a yacht, right?
Oh, I always thought of it as like shipping containers.
They're just
So they're
hanging
on a
out.
shipping container and have a little party. And Farrah can't really feel any remnants of the book while they're out there. Farrah and Tarquin talk more, and we find out that many of the Summer Court family was murdered by Amarantha. And so it seems like Tarquin may have just been one of the like few surviving people in the bloodline to be High Lord, but he would not have been in the running otherwise. The Summer Court has very strict and classist rules, and Tarquin does not agree with them.
Okay, we learned that he's only 80 years old.
I know.
That is insane.
Yes.
I'm sure he like never thought he would ever be High Lord.
Literally, imagine little Malachi being a High Lord.
Like,
That's what it is.
Literally. Or it's like he's like 13 and is now the king of the land. Like it just, that's crazy.
Back then, that probably did that happen? Maybe
Back when?
a long time ago.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
No, I mean that is something that would happen if, you know, if the dad died and the son was only 3, he was now king. He just couldn't rule. They would have people.
Like regents, I think is what they're called.
Yeah, but this is a little different because 80 is like adulthood, but you're still so young if you're comparing it to somebody who's 550. I really like the conversation Farrah and Tarquin have about what defines classes on either side of the wall, and they can kind of relate to that. I also see what Farrah means when she says that Tarquin would be easy to fall in love with. I feel like he has so much potential to like grow into a really benevolent, kind leader, and I thought that was a sweet comment, but also probably very misleading for him because it came off as flirtatious.
Yeah, for sure.
Farrah asks Tarquin if she can see some of the Summer Court treasure, and he agrees to take her tomorrow. Farrah sees Rhys flirting with Cressida and feels very unhappy and lonely and spends the rest of the party by herself with Rhys and Cressida nowhere to be found.
I really hate this so much. I'm so annoyed at Rhys, but I know he's just playing a game, but I also just hate it.
So many games.
Too many games for me. I don't like that. Okay, in the next chapter, we see that Farrah stays in bed until lunchtime to avoid seeing Rhys. So clearly she also hates it.
Yeah.
She takes a bath and practices forming animals with the water.
That's really sweet and precious.
It makes me think of clowns making balloon animals.
Like a bubble bath.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so Nuella and Saradwin like come and pick out her outfits and stuff and like do her hair. Would you ever want to have that role? Like if you weren't, you know, powerful or anything, what do you think about being like kind of like a servant, but they very much have autonomy, it seems like, because they're also spies.
Pass.
I actually, in high school, I thought about it'd be really fun to be a personal stylist. So yeah, that would be a cool little gig.
Yeah, and they're also spies, I think, for Azriel. So they're very dynamic.
Are they his ghost babies?
No.
oh, is Azriel their dad? No.
Oh,
No, he's not.
that's
their
how they
dad.
became shadows. Wow, crazy.
I think I would want this job, but I think I would be too much of a perfectionist, and it would like be like I would go insane. I'd be like, they have to like love every single outfit, and they have to like love
the braids and all the things.
Yeah. Farrah meets the group and avoids looking at Rhys and I'm sorry, how are we saying her name? Cressida.
I say Cressida, but whatever. We
Okay.
don't know what's right.
That reminds me of Casita.
Oh,
Cressida.
it does.
Yeah.
It reminds me of
Right? Isn't that Casita? No,
Crescent.
Casita. Did I say that?
Crescent.
Like a crescent roll.
Crescent feels very crescent.
No, I meant like the moon.
Oh, yeah, that too.
We should maybe look up her name.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
Next time. Okay.
Crescent roll.
So she avoids looking at Rhys and Crescent Roll and goes off to look at some treasure, do a little treasure tour with Tarquin. Again, I want Rhys's point of view so bad. Farrah is giving him such hot and cold messages.
It gave me like middle school vibes.
I
like,
know.
They're acting like children.
Well, and it's like he knows better,
He's freaking old.
but also he's aware of what's between them.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like if
Oh, go ahead.
when she finds out everything, spoiler, I would be pissed. I'd be so embarrassed. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like-
yeah.
Like especially because like it's not just him that knows; it's like other people.
Yeah, like all his friends. Rude.
Something I noticed about the treasure trove when they were like describing how they looked, it reminded me of Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in Throne of Glass. They come across these like treasures And
Oh, that's right. I
There's
was
just
like,
like
what are you talking
rooms
about?
full of
Mhm.
like treasure. And so I'm like wondering if the summer court has connection with where they found the treasure.
Interesting.
Tarquin gives Feyre a necklace of black diamonds as a thank you for saving them under the mountain. And Feyre doesn't feel like the book is with the rest of the treasure and feels bad that she has to betray Tarquin's trust. Do you think he would have given the book to Feyre if she just asked?
I want to say yes, but I think no. What do you think?
Maybe. I think I understand that they had to act in the way that they did because it would be speculation, you know what I mean? Like to ask is showing their hand.
Yeah, I think it could have opened the door to like have more conversations about it, but they don't have time. That's a part of the problem.
Well, and also like they don't know where he's gonna align. You know what I mean? And like it also opens the door for them to be betrayed, you know?
Totally. What do you think, Paige?
I agree. Definitely, I agree
Yeah.
with what you said.
I really love getting to know Tarquin and would love a storyline for him. I love that he sees through Rhys's bad boy persona when so many don't. Like he totally sees through it. He's like, he saved me under the mountain. Like he could say that it was for playing games, but I know it was an act of mercy.
I have a fan cast for Tarquin, Liam Hemsworth.
Ooh.
Because I think of him from the last song, and like little Sandy and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I think that he would be good.
I think so too. The way he described Rhys also makes me think of Aelin a little. Like he's like putting on this swagger, which you got to read the other books. Gotta get there.
Yeah, I think part of maybe the reason why he can see through it is because he's so young. You know what I mean? Like they're all like all the other High Lords are at least as old as Rhys, if not older than him, right? So they kind of like maybe have this opinion of him from when he was like young and growing up and his past experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. They're like potentially tainted too by all the games.
And the Hewn City.
Yeah.
Rhys is waiting for Feyre in her room, and they both kind of admit to being jealous from them flirting with other people. And Rhys twists it, and he says he's just jealous that Tarquin can fall in love and not have a target on his family's back.
Yes, he's jealous because he wants Feyre flirting with him.
And we get the classic line of "To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered."
And they cheers.
They cheers.
So cute. So that's the end of our recap. Do we want to skip Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, let's skip Wheel of Fortune.
So we have some sister questions. And we do just want to give a little spoiler warning. We're going to try not to spoil much because Paige hasn't read a lot, but we will be discussing just like thoughts from the rest of this book and whatnot. So first question to both of you. At this point in your ACOTAR reading journey, which Archeron sister do you relate to the most? And I feel like, Paige, you don't have a lot of context of them. I'm assuming you know that they come back into... Oh, you read the book. You finished the book. So you know that they'll be more prominent in other books. But I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are.
I think, well, because I know that what you guys are in my mind. So I think I'm Elaine because I'm the leftover and I'm the baby of the family. And just I'm the baby of the family. I'm kind of just like...
Isn't it funny, though, that Farrah's the baby?
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
But I think you're Feyre, you're Nesta, I'm Elaine, because that's what's left over.
Aww.
I don't want to be Elaine necessarily,
Well, who
but
do you want to be?
I don't know. I would love to be Feyre, but I don't think I am.
Honestly, that whole answer was very Elaine. I'm like, I don't know, just it's okay. I'll just be the leftover. It's okay,
I'll
guys.
just go to my garden.
Well, I really hope
For your sake, Paige, that we get a little bit more of Elaine because she's very vanilla, but I don't think you're vanilla at all. Okay, and I actually like Elaine. I think that she gets overlooked a little bit because her main storyline hasn't come yet. I'm pretty sure the next book is an Elaine book, so we'll get a lot more. But I think she has some really great characteristics. She really starts to, in this book, she really starts to like think for herself and stand up for what she believes in. And I think she's very loyal to Farrah and
kind.
Yeah, and there is a positive side of being able to kind of put on rose-colored lenses in the midst of trauma, or just to be able to like look past it in order to get done what needs to get done. And I feel like she has that quality later. Like she's not all consumed by what she's been through.
She reminds me of Elide. in Throne of Glass.
Yes.
She does, and I love her.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
So yeah.
Like super sweet, super
But
like smart.
Still smart and a little
Mhm.
cunning, you know?
And she like hides those traits a little bit, like until they're absolutely necessary to be used, and she throws people off guard with them, which I like.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think especially looking at this in the context of like the three of us, because we are the three sisters. I'm definitely Nesta. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what?
Nothing.
Honestly, that right there.
Okay, I actually love Nesta after reading.
Yeah, I think I really identify a lot with her character and just like her tendencies towards anger and rage. I got a lot of hate in my heart, baby. I'm just kidding. But I just think that, yeah, I get it, you know? And I also want to say too that I think that because you guys have talked about this quite a bit on the podcast about like, oh, the situation, Farrah's home life before. I just have a really hard time with that too, because it's like, it feels like so stupid.
What do you mean you have a hard time with? Like
I just cannot believe, knowing Nesta and them now, that like that's how it was. You know what I mean?
right. Well, I think they were just all consumed. They let themselves be all consumed by their grief and their pride and
Rage and hate.
yeah, exactly.
But I will say too, though, that I think that like with Nesta's character in particular, like she has this like fierce loyalty to others, and it manifests itself differently. And I think that like for Elaine, maybe she doesn't feel that like Elaine is, you know, strong enough, and like maybe she sees herself in Farrah and is like, I know that she's strong enough. But also, you know, how old was Nesta when they lost all their stuff, you know?
I don't know.
If Farrah's 12?
I can't remember. 14?
She's like 11?
11.
Then she's what, like 15? And now she's got to do everything? I'm just like, it's the dad's fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very Nesta of you.
True.
Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah. So, who is your favorite member of the inner court?
I realized after I wrote this, I think it's Inner Circle. What does he call
It's
him?
the inner circle.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say probably Amryn, because she seems just kind of mysterious and we don't know what her powers kind of are. And later on in the story, there's stuff that there's stuff that I kind of think are funny about her. So yeah, Amryn for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I think probably Amryn or Cassian, because I think with Amryn, I like how she's like mysterious and very much like no nonsense, and like people are afraid of her. You know what I mean? Which is fun. No, but I just mean, you know what I mean? Like we don't really know what her deal is. Yeah. There's a lot of mystery behind like what she's capable of and all that stuff. And I think she's just a fun character because she just doesn't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also with Cassian, I think he's really direct, and I appreciate that because none of these other characters are having conversations with each other. So someone's got to do all the heavy lifting.
And Cassian's strong enough. Okay, this question is specifically for Paige. What are your predictions for the rest of the series? Do you have any thoughts on what would happen?
It's hard to say without like giving too much of a spoiler, but obviously it's kind of a, can I say a spoiler?
Yeah, we gave a spoiler warning. So.
Okay, so spoiler. But if like when Feyre goes back to the spring court, it's like, it's kind of a bummer because I started reading the third book and it's like we're right back to not right back to where we were in the second book, but again, it's that kind of there's the similarities. And so I think it's hard to say. Inevitably, I'm assuming she takes over the spring court and like murders everyone.
Ooh, hot take.
Like she's the spy. I don't know.
Well, you got to keep reading to find out. Yeah. That's a good prediction.
Do you guys have any hot takes regarding the series of like things you like wish would happen, like pairings you would wish that would get together, pairings you really don't like together,
or things you liked that maybe not everyone did, or things that you didn't like that other people liked?
Well, you guys know the smut in this book is like insane.
It gets more intense.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not opposed to that, but like it makes me a little bit uncomfy. I think because there's like they're not humans, you know, so it's a little bit weirder.
Oh, interesting.
You feel like you're reading like animals?
Yeah, like bestiality.
I wrong?
Yes.
What is bestiality?
It's like
Sex with animals.
yeah, like a human having
Oh.
sex with an animal.
I thought I don't know. Oh, that's
You
bad.
thought it was Omar.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
It's fine. You cannot like that. No, it's not for everybody.
Sex with animals isn't for everyone.
Well, that yes, but also just like, you know, it's funny too because this really isn't. I wouldn't say this is smut, to be honest.
It's
a lot of
not.
people label it as it. It's really just like a book with some
Adult.
scenes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hot takes.
I've got a few. No, just kidding.
Where's my list?
I think I was talking to Morgan about this the other day because I'm reading Throne of Glass right now. I think I see it in this book too. I would really, really appreciate some like female male friendships. I feel like any like female character has to have a partner, or like there has to be some sort of romance between them and someone, and it's just like, okay, can we just be friends? You know what I mean? Like it would be more interesting. You know,
They always like flirt. They always
Right,
have to
or even
flirt.
like there are some characters who don't have partners, like Amren or Moore or whatever. But there's like, but then they do, or there's like a love triangle and whatever. But there's not a whole lot of like, even spoiler, Elaine when she gets turned, and then immediately Lucien is like, or is it Lucien? Lucien is like, oh, you're mine.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's another person that's interested in her, and it's just like, can you just leave a girl alone?
I have a question. So if Elaine didn't become Fae, would Lucien never have a mate?
No, I think I don't know.
I think that's like the like tricky part because it's like the same thing with like Feyre and Rhys, right? Like he always knew that like, but like it's like their fate and destiny was like already spelled out for them. Like the cauldron already knew they were going to become a Fae, so then that's why it chose, right? So it's like this like weird thing.
If I could connect the cosmos and talk about Throne of Glass a little bit, it's possible for a Fae and a demi-Fae to be mated. So is it possible for? Well, yeah, because they talk about how a Fae could be mated with a human. So
yes, and a Fae is actually able, at least in the Throne of Glass world, which I think this is the conversation you may be referring to, a Fae can give up their immortality to be with a human. So there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
Did you want to share another hot take?
I kind of do. Last hot take. I think that is Ian Anthe in this book?
Ianthe?
Ianthe?
This is what I'm talking about. I don't know anything. They call it
Ian Anthe.
But before you corrected me, Morgan, I was calling her like Ianthe or something weird because I just couldn't. There's so many character names. Actually, this is my hot take. Forget the other one. What's wrong with John? You know, like there's so many names in this book where I don't even try. I just am like, okay, this person. You know, I don't even try to pronounce it in my head because it's too much. It's too much. That's my hot take.
Ian Anthe. I just cannot. Okay. Anyway, okay, last question. What do you rate the series as a whole out of 5 stars based off of what you've read so far?
4. I seldom give 5s.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't know because this is my first series that I've read in this type of genre, really, unless you count Aragorn, which I freaking love.
Harry Potter.
Aragorn.
Aragorn.
Aragon.
Aragorn is from Lord of the Rings.
Aragon.
No, Aragon, which is an amazing.
My favorite book series, Aragorn.
I never said favorite. I said I loved it. Okay, there's a difference. But I would say
my favorite book of the year was this one book that I can't remember anything about.
I actually don't think I read it this last year. What were we talking about?
Can you not hold my hand?
Oh, I would rate it a 3
Okay. Ooh.
because in my rating, 5 is perfect, so nothing will ever be a 5 generally. 4 is fabulous, like amazing. I don't want to stop talking about it. And 3 is like, I really liked it and I would recommend it to other people. I feel like that's how it lands for me.
Yeah, I get that. I rated a 4 because I can't stop talking about it, obviously.
Right. I mean, you made a podcast about it.
Yeah.
I would also say it's like a 4.
Yeah.
But I also don't like rating things. It gives me anxiety.
I know. Well, because then I'm like, well, Throne of Glass, I liked more than Akatar, but is it a 5? I don't know.
Can you do like decimals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be a 4.25?
Might be like a 4.75, honestly.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Well, next week we're going to read chapters 35 to 42. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for
thank
inviting
you.
us. It was so fun. It was a treat.
It was
Thank
so
you.
much fun.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.